Hey there, true believers, welcome back to another video. This is my spoiler review, my thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, you might realize that I didn't do a video on the second trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. Well, I actually did three. I did a trailer breakdown, a trailer reaction, didn't like those two videos, and I did another breakdown, but it wouldn't upload. So, I have still been very excited for this movie, just been not on YouTube, and I didn't get a chance to do those videos because YouTube won't let me upload videos half the time. I also did videos on my custom Wolverine and my custom Thor that, again, they wouldn't let me upload, so I'm trying to get that figured out, and hopefully the same thing doesn't happen with this video. But, my thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home. Let me just say this, if I would have done a video the night that I watched the movie on Friday night, and I uploaded that as my Spider-Man No Way Home review, you would be watching a very, very different video. I don't know what was wrong with me that day. I don't know. I didn't have the greatest day, and the crowd reactions were literally nothing. Without exaggerating, the only moment where the crowd did anything was when Norman said, "I'm something of a scientist myself." Not when Matt Murdock showed up. Not when Toby showed up. Not when Andrew showed up. Not when Andrew saved MJ. Not when Aunt May dies. Nobody did anything. Not at the jokes, not at nothing. So I watched it again Monday night. Well, Monday, midday Monday. And there was about 10 people in the theater. And again, not a whole lot of crowd reactions. When Matt Murdock showed up, one dude went, "Woo!" And I thought that was kind of funny. But every emotional moment in this movie, the second time around, hit me like a ton of bricks. As soon as Aunt May died, or as soon as she said, "With great power comes responsibility," I was pretty much sobbing through the rest of the movie. When Toby finishes the line after Tom started it, "With great power comes great responsibility." When Andrew talks about how he became a brutal Spider-Man and how he stopped pulling his punches. When Aunt May says, "With great power, there must also come great responsibility." When I seen Happy's reaction to what happened, when Peter was crying and Norman was, and Jameson was ripping his name to shreds after he had just lost the woman that has cared for him his entire life. The woman that has taken care of him over the course of the 6 movies. First time I watched it, when Aunt May died, I thought it was bad in taste and it wasn't deserved. But over the course of thinking about it and after seeing it again, it was probably the most deserved death that we have seen all over every other Spider-Man movie. We don't get much time with Uncle Ben in either one of the Spider-Man or the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. We get a little bit more with him in the Amazing Spider-Man, and he seems like a real character in the Amazing Spider-Man. He has his ups, he has his downs, he has his good and his bad days, we can see. He tries to be that father figure that Peter deserves, that Peter needs. And in the original Spider-Man franchise, we see him just be this lighthearted, when you get knocked down, you get back up kind of guy. Now, I wouldn't say I prefer this over those two. But after seeing Aunt May in Civil War, after seeing her in Homecoming, after seeing her in Endgame, after seeing her in Far From Home, we spent the most time with this character, and it throughout No Way Home. We've seen what she means to Peter. We've seen it in Homecoming. When the scene where when Ned's like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell everybody," he's like, "No, I can't put my aunt through this. After everything that she's been through." We've seen how much this Peter Parker, how this Aunt May means to this Peter Parker. And the second time I watched it, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm going to keep saying that throughout this video. The second time I watched MJ fall, and it happened exactly how I thought it was going to happen. A lot of people were saying that it was Andrew who was jumping down to save her and they just removed it and put Tom. No. I said this in my trailer reaction, trailer 2 breakdown, but I didn't upload it, so I can't prove it to you. But my thoughts were that Tom was going to jump down. Goblin knocks him out of the way, and then Andrew jumps down to save her. And Andrew Garfield's acting in this movie was phenomenal. Seeing Tobey Maguire again made me bawl like a little baby after he finished "With great power comes great responsibility." And you can see the emotion in his eyes when he says it. You can see the emotion in Andrew's eyes when he says it. and everybody did an amazing job. And one of the things I was worried about going to this movie was the lack of a Tom Holland villain. That's why I was so certain that Mysterio was going to be the big overarching villain, even if he wasn't a part of the movie, but setting things up in a way. I thought he was going to have a part, but he didn't. There was no sixth member. There was no Tom Holland villain. Or at least that's what I thought going in. There is a Tom Holland villain, and it happens to be the best one, Green Goblin. And the best portrayal, in my opinion, of Green Goblin on the screen is Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. And the emotional impact that this character had on Peter Parker is absolutely insane. I did not see this coming from a mile away. I thought this movie was gonna be cool nostalgia trip seeing these villains again, seeing what they did with them. But seeing Green Goblin done again and really getting the chance to see those two sides, those personality flips like we've seen in the 90s animated series, it was unlike anything that I've ever seen before. That is my favorite Spider-Man villain. And seeing the way that they treated Doc Ock, it was phenomenal. The attention to detail. Sandman. People aren't talking about Sandman. Flint Marko, he was great in this movie. He was very, very good in this movie. I really liked his, his first thought is to try to help Spider-Man, because he's like, hey, you remember me? Hey, we're cool, right? Electro. And I don't like the fact that people are saying that, not acknowledging that Electro had a makeover. They do. Basically, Connor mentions it. Connor says that, and if you really think back, if you go back to watching Amazing Spider-Man 2, they even acknowledge it. When he fixes his teeth, we can only just assume that it fixes his hairline too. We just never see it because he lost his body, which Max Dillon mentions when he gets his body back. He's like, I got my body back. And Connor says that, would you get a makeover? So when he got his powers, it fixed everything that was wrong with him, but he lost his body. So when he got his body back, that's what it looked like. So the way they're trying to play this off is that Max Dillon looked like that as soon as he got his powers, but he turned completely blue. So that's why we never seen it. There is a plot hole in this movie in terms of Electro not knowing who Peter Parker is. I don't care. There's other plot holes that people have brought to people's attention. I haven't watched them. I know John Campea did a video on it, and I think I've seen another video, but I didn't really watch them. So I don't know what the other plot holes are besides Electro. There is a potential problem with everybody in the universe not knowing who Peter Parker is. That's pretty big. What are you gonna do? I don't know. Like, are you gonna, if we see the Amazing Spider-Man 3 and we see Spider-Man 4, are they gonna do the exact same plot line that Spider-Man 4 is gonna try to do? I don't think so. So, I mean, it is what it is. Either they'll try to find some way to explain it, or they're just going to not acknowledge it. But I don't think that we can shit on this movie when I don't know, because that is a pretty big problem. But the movie itself, the story it's trying to contain itself, I think it does a really good job. Apart from one other thing, which is the CGI. This is one of the things going in that I was very scared of. I didn't want Andrew and Toby to look like cartoon characters, and they do. As soon as you see Andrew and he jumps through the portal, he's completely CGI. Then it cuts away and it cuts back and he's in his suit, but his mask is CGI. And they do the same thing to Toby when he meets Doc Ock. He's wearing a real suit, but then his mask is CGI. Like, this is the first time we're seeing Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man in 14 years. This is the first time we're seeing Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man in 7 years. These characters deserve more respect than that. If it would have cost more money to make them full suits, if it would have taken more time to get them in and out of those suits for these action shots, and I think that was well granted, or I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now. I think that these characters deserved more respect than that. In the writing, they got it. In the acting, they got it. But in the costume and the CGI department, they did not get it. There's no There's no excuse for why Andrew Garfield looks better in his own movie that came out 7 years ago than he does in 2021. There's no excuse for Tobey Maguire looking better in 2001 or 2002 than he does in 2021. That is not okay in my opinion. And it's not, it's baloney. I don't know why I just said baloney, but it's baloney. And I think some of the CGI with Tom Holland looks a little bit weird as well. When he's carrying the glider, he's got like this weird head shifting that bothers me. And I'm a noticer. I notice these things. So like when you see him talking to MJ and telling him that he's gonna have to, that you're not gonna remember who I am, you can see like this weird shifting between his neck and his suit because they covered the upgraded suit with CGI to do the integrated suit details on it. So there's this weird like shifting of his neck, and you can see it in some scenes, and it's very aggravating in my opinion. It's not a huge deal. The Tobey and Andrew is a huge deal for me, but that other stuff with Tom isn't a huge deal because I'm kind of used to seeing Tom like that. So the CGI is one of the things I have a big problem with in this movie. But as for the story and as for how they treat Tom Holland's Peter Parker, they fixed every single problem that I had with him. And they strengthened Andrew's Peter. They propelled Tobey's Peter more by giving confidence boosters to Andrew and making sure that Tom makes the right decision and not killing Green Goblin. They treated these characters in the writing with the respect that they deserved. And some of the people said that the comedy didn't land. For me, I pretty much thought most of the stuff was funny. And if there wasn't something that I laughed at, I didn't like cringe at it. You know how you can have comedy that doesn't, there's not everything's a knee slapper, but that doesn't make it cringy, you know? So the comedy I didn't dislike the comedy. I thought it was pretty good for the most part. I remember seeing one of the leaked things that I seen, that was spoiler that I'd seen, was when MJ threw the bread at him and she said, "You don't have the Peter tingle?" And he said, "I have the Peter tingle, just not for bread." I thought that was funny. I thought the back joke was funny as well. But I did like the sort of like the movie trying to acknowledge the fact that everybody considers Andrew the worst Spider-Man, but then the movie is telling you that no, he is not the worst Spider-Man. He's the amazing Spider-Man. I like that because I think Andrew doesn't get enough respect that he deserves on his own. Andrew is the best actor to play Spider-Man. He's not, I wouldn't say he's the best Spider-Man. He's not the best Peter Parker. Not in everybody's opinion. In some people's opinions, he is. But he is definitely the best actor to play the character. He's a phenomenal actor. And if he was given good material, he could prove that, just like he did in this movie. But that being said, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I really did. The second time watching it, it turned me into a little kid again. It made me bawl. It made me excited. It made me laugh. And the way that they ended this movie, I am so very excited to see what they do with this character, because they gave us the classic suit. They gave us that Peter that's on his own, that's by himself, that's got no money, and he made the biggest sacrifice of any other Spider-Man that we've seen. He's given up his friends, his family. He's given up Happy. He's given up Ned. He's given up MJ. He doesn't even have the ability to say that the woman that he lost was his aunt. He's given up everything. He's made a huge sacrifice, and he's made a responsible decision. The first time we see this character, this version of Spider-Man, make a decision like that. And the first post-credit scene that we see with Tom Hardy's Venom, I'll be completely honest with you, the Venom movies are not going to be in my ranking because I did not watch them. I do not care for them. I don't want to see them. I don't want to see any version of Venom that has no connection to Spider-Man. That's another thing that I had a problem with, and Sony and Marvel fixed it. They brought Venom in, dropped the symbiote, took Venom back out. That is good. Now, whether we see, I think your first initial guess would be, or your assumption would be that Peter's going to get that symbiote, get the black suit, he's going to go through the black suit arc. Now, some people are jumping, including myself, some people are jumping to the conclusion that we're going to see our own Eddie Brock from this universe get the Venom suit, and then Tom's going to have his own Venom. I think that is very possible, but I think it's possible that they just have Tom get the black suit, and then they bring Tom Hardy back again. It could go either way. But as far as him having the black suit at some point, they have done that, and I like that. I don't know. I really like I really like the villains in the movie. The only part of the villains that I really didn't care for was the fact that they couldn't shoot new scenes for Connors or Flint Marko. They used stuff from Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, or The Amazing Spider-Man 1. After the second time watching it, it didn't really bother me that much because they did a really, really good job of hiding it. If you weren't as familiar with those movies as some of us are, then you probably wouldn't have even noticed. So you can't really fault them for, if they're going to do it and they did a hell of a job, then you can't really fault them for it. But this movie, it was great. It was a really good movie. If you can take every nostalgic part out of this movie and you have a great Spider-Man story. A great version of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and that's what I wanted to see the most. As much as I want to see Tobey and Andrew return, as much as I wanted to see Green Goblin on the screen again, if you take them out of this movie, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has completely redeemed himself. And the way that they set the pieces, this Spider-Man could very well be my favorite Spider-Man going forward. What I would like to see for Spider-Man 4 is maybe a smaller scale story, maybe a story between him and Daredevil teaming up to fight Kingpin. That's something I really, really want to see. I want to see that small scale, those small scale stakes. Not every movie needs to be bigger and badder, and we've seen in a recent interview that Amy Pascal agrees with that. I think that's great. If you think about every battle that we've seen this version of Spider-Man go through, they've all been humongous. We've seen him fight he's teamed up with the Avengers to fight the other half of the Avengers. He's gone to space. He's fought aliens on Earth and in space. He's fought Avengers level threats by himself. He's fought Avengers level threats with 2 other Spider-Men. Homecoming is the closest you have to a small scale story, and even then the stakes were big because we literally have Queens and parts of New York being filled with alien technology putting out on the black market or in arms deals or whatever you want to call it. That wasn't that much of a small scale story. And I think Kingpin's bigger than the smallest scale story you can go to, but he's a small scale story without feeling like we're taking a step back. Too far anyway. I think, say if you did a movie with Shocker as the main villain, then that would be like, okay, well, what are we doing here? I think Kingpin's a big enough threat, and adding Daredevil to it in some sort of capacity is still bringing it small scale, but still keeping it feeling like, just keeping it fresh and exciting without outdoing yourself. So that's something I really want to see, and I can't wait to see this suit in, the new suit in action. I really, really, really hope that they stop doing the new suits every movie, unless they do it in clever ways. Like, you can do it in clever ways. Like, if you think about the way that Tobey Maguire's suits changed, they've changed, like, the way that the Dark Knight suits changed. They changed in a practical ways. They improved the technology of the suits, so in turn, improved the look of the suits. I think the suit in Spider-Man 2 looks better than it does in Spider-Man 3, just because Tobey didn't really work out for that movie, so he looks a little bit weird in the suit. But the technology for the suits improved. The way they did the webbing, the flashing that comes off the webbing, the way they dyed the suits, the way that the lenses are attached to the face shell, the way the face shell moves, the way the muscle suit's designed. It's all practical evolution. I think that's something that we could see with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Subtle things be changed. They can still change the suit without getting him a new suit every movie. Now, if you were to think about, okay, well, what could you possibly do to Tom Holland's suit to make it change in a practical way where they could still do what they want to do and sell new toys? Well, they could do what the other Spider-Man movies did and just make up suits for toys. But those are less likely to be sold than something that's actually worn in the movie, so they change his suit without actually changing his suit. You do things like changing the colors. You do things like maybe changing the spiders. You do things like maybe changing the eyes, giving him bigger eyes, or I don't know. But if you think about things like that, changing his suit in those ways, it makes sense. If Peter Parker has to continually repair his suit and continually make new suits, they're not always going to be 100% the same. They're not the same in the comic books. The classic suit has very different versions of it. If you go from Steve Ditko to John Romita to John Romita Jr. to Todd McFarlane to go to Mark Bagley, the classic suit has a lot of different interpretations of it. So I think that's the way that you can change the suit and still sell toys. Of course, bringing the black suit into it. And there's another way of selling more toys, that's introducing other spider characters. You don't need to change Tom Holland's suit, just bring in the characters that have different suits. But this video is getting quite long. And I've been standing for about an hour now because I've redone this video several times. If you guys have any thoughts or any opinions that you'd like to share down in the comments, I'd love to hear them. If your own personal ranking, or if you want to save that for the video that I do the actual ranking of, let me know. I really enjoyed this movie. There's not a whole lot I can say about it because, I mean, what is there to say about this movie? They did a great job they completely redeemed Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and they kept the spirit of Tobey's Spider-Man alive. The only complaints I have with this movie, the CGI, and maybe the music. I think we could have seen I think they could have been a little bit more epic with the Tobey Maguire music and the Andrew Garfield music. But I understand why they didn't, because this is not their movie. This is Tom Holland's movie. Now, if we're talking about a movie, we go into the theater and the movie says Spider-Verse, then you better bet your ass that I want to see an intro that has Danny Elfman's theme, that has either James Horner's theme or Hans Zimmer's theme, and then a theme for Michael Giacchino. You can bet your ass that I want to see those themes be loud, overpowering, and absolutely epic. If the movie says Spider-Verse, this movie has an excuse. It's a Tom Holland movie. That's your excuse. But those themes better be fucking loud and crazy the next time we see those characters. Because I'm a music man. I'm a music man, and that's what I want to hear. So, without further ado, if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and of course, hit that notification bell. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And I'm sorry I've been gone for a little bit. Next video will be the ranking, so stay tuned.